All right, Eric, I'm going to apologize in advance. This may be a bleeped episode. There's not a whole lot of that's good this week.
You're listening to Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong, all on Georgia Radio Network.
Welcome to episode 151 of the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast. I'm Dave Roberts. With me, as always, is my podcast partner in crime, writer, journalist, Jessica Szilagyi.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, howdy. How was your week?
Well, I wasn't in D.C., so I guess that's good.
Oh, you weren't wearing a helmet?
I wasn't. Nope, I wasn't.
It would mess up your hair anyway.
Absolutely. I draw the line.
Other than what's going on TV, did you have a decent week?
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, yeah, I guess. Did you?
I worked a lot this week, which is good. Yeah, I enjoy what I do. And of course, December is a tough month for me because people will mortgage their future in order to get toys for their kids for Christmas. So December traditionally is a down month because people will put off repairs, put off replacing anything. I heard an excuse one summer. The guy said, "I can't afford a new system." I said, "Man, I understand." He goes, "Yeah, I just put a pool in." What?
Wow.
Well, I hope you like that pool.
Yeah, right.
I can't afford to put something in for a few $1,000s to put a $60,000 pool in. Well, I mean, man. So, but yeah, that happens at Christmas. Oh, can you just get me through Christmas? Can you just get me through Christmas? Because they know in January they'll get paid again, and then everything is hunky dory. But being busy this week, I didn't have time to sit in front of the TV and just sit and stew and steam about with what's going on in the state and the country and all that stuff. I was actually busy, so I caught blurbs when I got home, and then we don't sit and watch the news together. We will put on a show, or we watch the entire 2 seasons of Jack Ryan and stuff like that. So our quality time together is not spent watching the news, because there's nothing like having your husband just sit there and steam to make quality time between a husband and wife, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The good news for you is the dogs don't care.
They don't. They never care. And they are happy no matter what. And the more I stay home, the happier they are.
That's true. Animals around the country are so happy with COVID this last year.
Yes.
Because they get to go outside anytime they want to. They get love anytime they want to. They get treats anytime they want to. Yes. Of course, there may be some that are like, Jesus, just go to work, please.
I think sometimes Stella would hopes that I would give her a little time to just rest without me being there.
Yeah, it's like, why are you here at 2:00 in the afternoon? It's nap time.
Right.
Go away. So, let's get into the show.
Okay.
The hell that broke loose in Georgia. The legislature is back in session as of today, the show dropping, and we're going to change gears and start covering their mess beginning next week, right after we tie up these loose ends from 2020 election. Having said that, election results.
Nice job, Dave.
What, reading what you wrote?
Mm-hmm. You could paraphrase. You don't have to read everything.
Well, it helps if I do. That way I don't think.
Oh, okay. Well, then read away. Did you vote?
Of course.
Did you vote early?
I did.
Oh, okay.
I shouldn't have.
Really?
But Connie was off the week between Christmas and New Year's.
Oh.
So
and you went together so she could make sure you did it right?
Exactly. So she could sound out the big words for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I went, I towed the line, I voted for a divided government.
I didn't.
I know. That's fine. And that's fine.
Well, of course it's fine. It's my vote.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
I just couldn't do it for Loeffler. I just couldn't make it work.
I get it.
And obviously, a lot of other people had the same feeling. So
yeah. And before we get into results, I'll tell you that the good thing is we don't have to talk about Loeffler anymore. She's going to go away.
Well, she's done. Her political career is ruined.
Good. It should have never started.
It should have never started. But what she did, I mean, I know we're going to get into all of it, but she didn't even go out doing what she said she was going to do. And I mean, people aren't going to forget that. Right, wrong, or indifferent, whether they're on the right side of the issue, it doesn't matter. You say you're going to do something and your only reason for not doing it or following through is because of what's happening on television. Nope.
No, it would have never began because she is so unrelatable. She's not a brilliant speaker. I shouldn't say she's not a brilliant speaker. She's plenty articulate. She's not an inspiring speaker.
Right.
You know, when I hear her talk, I don't want to, rattle my saber. I don't want to go hard charging for her. It's just blah. And we've said on the show before, even with her donations of her salary, she hits all these little check marks, and the people can sniff out that pandering. And that's what it was. It's besides, her actions after she lost the election, she was never inspiring. She was a piss poor choice. She got the job for two reasons. One, because Kemp wanted a woman or a minority, because Kemp, again, wants to check boxes. And he wanted to find something to appeal to suburban women. And there's nothing that suburban women identify with like a billionaire who has no financial worries in her life.
Yeah. I mean, she did get better on the campaign trail in terms of articulating things, but I think that's because she just got so used to saying them over and over and over. I mean, she literally took the last 10 months off work.
Right. So. And look, had she won, she would have taken the next 24 off also and done nothing but campaign.
Accurate.
She was a piss poor choice, and I know you don't like appointees anyway. And
correct.
We said when this was happening, I wanted a placeholder. I wanted somebody who was not going to run again, who could just sit and hold Johnny's seat for him until you could hand it off. I understand it's the people's seat. Actually, it should be the state's seat, not the people's. The people have a house.
They're still calling it Isaacson's seat. It's hilarious.
What's that?
They're still calling it Isaacson's seat.
It's his term.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a better term for it is to finish out Isaacson's term is just appoint a placeholder, somebody who's not going to run, who could stay up there in Washington instead of coming back home to campaign and just take care of the business of the country until now, honestly, until the runoff was done, and then hand it off and go back into retirement. I don't know who that person would be.
Well, it wouldn't matter who it was, because I wouldn't have, I mean, I'm not a good example, so, but let's just say that I was a good Republican. If Kelly Loeffler was the placeholder and Doug Collins was the nominee, it wouldn't matter it would matter to some degree because the party allegiance and everything, but he could blame her for a crap ton of stuff and throw her under the bus and say, oh, I wouldn't do that, or I would have done this differently. There would have been some distance there.
Right. And they tried to buy us off with $600. They tried everything. And she just didn't relate. And look, the the totals were relatively close. I mean, we're talking about, in her race, 49.7 to 50.93. And that's close. The Purdue race was 49.5 to 50.5. A little closer. Oddly enough, there are about 50 fewer people who voted in the Purdue race than voted in the Loeffler race.
What do you think about that?
It's interesting. It's interesting. It goes to show that Ossoff, at least to 50 people, and of course, it's not truly 50 people because a lot of people sat out the Loeffler race also. We would have to look at the total number of people who showed up at the polls, but there are plenty of people who sat out the Loeffler race because, again, they were uninspired by her. Mm-hmm. But I don't think Ossoff was pulling everybody that Warnock was pulling. I think there were a lot of people who were going to vote for Warnock because, well, I mean, they fell for his race baiting.
Well, I think it's interesting that of the 6 candidates on the ballot, when you consider, Public Service Commission too, Kelly Loeffler, the only person who received fewer votes than Kelly Loeffler was Daniel Blackman, who was the Democrat Public Service Commission candidate, and arguably, people who made it all the way down the ballot and didn't just go for the Senate race, probably voted party allegiance there. Some people just didn't. I mean, there's lots of reasons, but it's just fascinating to me that a race that is traditionally the least voted in on the ballot, no matter what, be it on the runoff or in a general election, one of those candidates still earned more votes than she did. Bubba McDonald had 2.27 and she had 2.18. So considerably more.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. It is interesting to me that Bubba McDonald won, and he was 50.48 to 49.52. Mm-hmm. That he won and the two Democrats won.
He got more votes than David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler.
Yeah, that to me is interesting.
Weird.
And I don't know what the breakdown is with that, where that is with it. Man, it's interesting to me that someone would vote Ossoff, Warnock, and then McDonald.
Yeah.
Because you would think if...
And no one shows up just to vote for Public Service Commissioner, except maybe Bubba McDonald and Daniel Blackman if they hate everybody. Like nobody's just showing up for that race.
Well, man, first of all, Lynn Wood can kiss my entire and that could be a partial explanation for it. As Lynn Wood ran this protest, don't vote for either one of them. Mm-hmm. And that could have had an effect. Because we're not talking about a whole lot of votes.
You're talking about 20,000 more people between Bubba and Perdue. Yeah, but there are a lot of people. Those numbers are hard to analyze because a lot of people would have skipped the Public Service Commissioner also. Because they don't have an opinion on it. They don't know what the Public Service Commissioner does. Right, so, but that implies that 20,000... I mean, I understand it's not... But it implies that 20,000 Republicans either only showed up to vote for PSC. 20,000? Okay, statewide? Yeah. Now, look, there are a bunch of billboards up around here on 75 say that they didn't deliver for Trump and we shouldn't deliver for them. So it wasn't just Facebook posts. I mean, there was some effort put into this idea that you should protest it because your vote doesn't count anyway. That's stupid. Why would you vote at all? I don't buy that as a reason. Well, I don't know. If I didn't think my vote counted in the Senate race, I wouldn't be like, okay, well, I'm still going to vote for this one. I just wouldn't go. Well, I think the idea was to send a message. I'm not going to vote in either race, but I'm going to vote for this. So I went to the polls and I didn't vote for you. But who did that? Because it wasn't libertarians, because a libertarian isn't going to show up and vote for Bubba McDonald, who has pushed for more regulations just like all the others.
I don't think Lynn Wood is a libertarian either.
I know, so I'm saying who did that?
There were quite a few.
Like a freaking owl. Tell me.
Who?
Yeah, I mean, seriously, like.
There were quite a few angry Trumpers that were falling for Lynn Wood stuff. And look, he had got his 15 minutes of fame. Lynn, go away. You know, Lynn's a nutcase. Look, he did one good thing with Nick Sandman. And he got his 15 minutes. Now go away.
But even at the end, Trump was doing rallies for Perdue and Loeffler and telling people to get out and vote, and it was important. And I'm sorry. I don't
know. I don't know. That's it has to be a factor in there. It's going to be a combination. It's going to be a recipe. It's going to be a combination of factors. You know, I was watching the results come in, watch them come in, and I popped something on the DVR. And I don't know what time it was, midnight, maybe a little after. I popped something on DVR. I watched a half-hour show on DVR, which is, 24 minutes when you fast forward through commercials. And I popped the news back on. So when I put the show on, both Republicans were ahead. And by no small amount of votes. And 24 minutes later, boom, they're losing. And it's like, what happened?
Metropolitan happened.
Right. Now, were you surprised?
I was surprised. I really thought Perdue was going to pull it out. Honestly, I knew Loeffler was going to lose. There was no way she couldn't. And we had the conversation about who was more dangerous in the short term. And you said you could put up with Loeffler, but she didn't have. Perdue had money, time in the Senate, and he had no opposition. Like, people genuinely, Republicans liked him. I didn't, but
he also refused to reach out. And I think we've mentioned on the show before, he demonstrated that he's an intellectual coward when he didn't show up on Shane Hazel's show after committing to it. That he was not going to stand and talk about issues and stand and debate with somebody who doesn't necessarily agree with him. He wasn't going to throw an olive branch to the libertarians who were fans of Shane Hazel. And look, Hazel didn't spend any money, so every vote he got was organic. So he got his votes from going on his show, obviously coming on this show. So the people that listened to him would have tuned in for a conversation with Perdue.
But they weren't going to vote for him anyway.
But
they weren't.
You still show up. You do everything possible.
I don't agree with that. He had nothing to lose he only had room to lose by showing up to a debate. The more you talk, the worse it is.
Yeah, he didn't show up for debate against Pajama Boy, did he?
No.
I don't like it.
I know you don't like it, but that's what a consultant would tell you to do, because I don't think that's what hurt him. He hasn't had a town hall the whole time he's been elected. That's not what hurt him.
You know, I'm a take all comers.
Mm-hmm.
Stand up. Tell me what you stand for. Tell me, give me your principles. Agree, disagree, doesn't matter. Give me your principles. Now, I understand that Loeffler showed up to a debate and it didn't help her, but she's so obtuse, and there were a lot of Doug Collins voters who weren't going to vote for her. I'm just glad she's gone. I'm not happy with Raphael Warnock, but I'm glad she's gone. That she's going to be gone from the Georgia political landscape. That she can go and just do whatever she does. Own a basketball team that nobody watches. whatever it is that she does with her time. Go, raise her cows or whatever, whatever she likes to do to pretend that she's a poor person. Purdue, do you think he's gone?
I mean, are you saying, like, do I think he'll withstand a challenge?
No. I think, do you think he's gone from the political landscape? Do you think he's going to run for something else?
I do think he's done. What is he going to run for?
Yeah, he can run for Senate again in 2 years.
No.
Less than 2 years.
No, they'll throw some other billionaire at us. No, I think he's done. Sonny is the politician in the family.
Well, if he stays prominent, keeps donating, next time there's a Republican president, maybe he'll get a cabinet post like Sonny did.
Okay, but what would Purdue be qualified to do?
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't think he does either.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't qualified for Senate.
He's an outsider.
Yeah, the original outsider.
Everyone with a $600 jean jacket is an outsider.
$600 jean jacket.
Yeah, he had it custom made.
Really?
Yeah, in 2014. Yeah.
And I thought I was a pompous ass.
You ain't got nothing on him.
I've got some work to do.
Yeah, step it up.
I'm also a couple billion short.
You could swing a $600 jean jacket.
Yes, I could swing a $600 jean jacket, but I don't go around in a Canadian tuxedo.
Oh, thank God. You wouldn't be on the show if you did. I can tell you that much.
All right, so Hog Trail. We were at a Rush concert. We were waiting for somebody we'd never met, a friend of a friend. And it's Canadian guys, because Rush is a Canadian band. So my two brothers and I are standing there, and we're talking to Sean, who's Canadian. And he goes, we're waiting for Richie to go in. He goes, and my little brother goes, hey, is Richie the guy over there in the Canadian tuxedo? And dude's wearing blue jeans, denim shirt, and a jean jacket. He goes, no. Oh, yeah, that's him. The Canadian tuxedo. But yeah, the $600 jean jacket. Yes, I could swing a $600 jean jacket. I just wouldn't. So many other things to do with $600. Although I did get my stimulus check in the mail.
Congratulations. Oh, you could use it on a jacket.
I could. You know what? We could get a jacket for me and one for Connie. We can go matching Canadian tuxedos.
Poor Connie.
You know what? She asked for this.
I don't think she asked for a Canadian tuxedo, though.
No. She gets jewelry, not jean jackets. So as of Wednesday morning, Fulton, Chatham, DeKalb,
Chatham. Come.
Oh, DeKalb, Gwinnett, all had outstanding absentee ballots from 3,000 to 7,000, upwards of 17,000 military and overseas ballots outstanding, which had until Friday at 5 p.m. to arrive.
Well, you know, like they always say, we don't know how many absentees because they don't know how many are actually going to get returned. I mean, they never do, but with the military, it's even more up in the air. But I did think it was hilarious that when we woke up on Wednesday, well, let me back up a second. Chatham County stopped counting on Tuesday night. They went home and said they were going to come back. And everyone was outraged. And Gabe Sterling from the Secretary of State's office gets on Twitter and is like, they didn't just stop. They're done except for the ballots that came in today. And I'm like, okay, well, if ballots came in today in the mail and they left at 11 p.m. but ballots came before the close of business via the U.S. mail, they're not done counting for the day. Like, I didn't think they should go home. And his dumbass was on Twitter telling everybody who said, you know, that they were when they were opposed to or shouting down Chatham and calling on the state to do something, which Chatham stayed open later because they had problems too. So not only it's just crap. And he said that they were done. And when they started on Wednesday morning, they're like, yeah, we have somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 left to count. We don't know. All right, sure. But the whole reason I put this on the outline is because I just thought it was hilarious that we talked about absentee ballots until, I guess today, because we're still talking about them from the November election. But as of Wednesday, because of everything that happened, no one's brought it up since. Like literally not a single person. They had all these votes that were these ballots that were going to go before the county election boards to establish whether or not they were going to be counted, because they would, some of them have like discrepancies that the board has to vote on and allow the parties to inspect themselves. And there's all those disputes. And they were like, we'll have more information at 4. And then the country set on fire at 1:30. And they're like, just kidding. We're not going to talk about it anymore. So.
I don't understand going home early.
No.
They didn't start. They don't start counting until the polls close.
They said they had to work all day. Okay, well, have a team. Where like a relay race, pass the stick off.
Yeah. Take a break. Grab a cup of coffee. Grab something to eat. Get back to work.
It's the election day. You knew it's coming. It's not like you're just getting blindsided.
If they had to work, how are they going to do it the next day? Knock it out. So when stuff like that happens, I hear from my friends that are a little further out of Atlanta, and one of the comments I heard was, "Why should rural Georgians even vote at this point?"
Mm-hmm.
Because our votes don't matter. Our results come in, and then DeKalb, Fulton decide how many votes they need, and that's what drops.
Right.
And
what did you say?
There's no good explanation. I mean, what am I supposed to say? You don't need to be a good American and go to the polls. Our votes don't matter. He said our votes don't matter anyway. They go home on election night, and the next day magically they have enough votes to carry the election. And this has happened now twice. The same election cycle, but it's now happened twice. On election night, when I turned the TV off and went to bed, it was 1-2 o'clock in the morning that Wednesday morning, and the Vegas odds were 80-something% Trump. I went to bed, turned the TV off, woke up the next morning, turned the TV on, and somehow we had President-elect Biden. And I'm not saying that there was anything. I still stand by. I think that election was stolen. There had to be. There was vote harvesting. There's a lot of other things that went on. I think the recounts were shady at best. I think our elections were a lot more secure with the old machines instead of having paper ballots that you're going to have. So
on that point, I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know if there was. There's always voter fraud in every single election. People cheat. People lie. There's always fraud. There's always absentee. It's every single time. But my issue is more that I don't trust the process following. It's just like when they had the GBI step in with their investigators, with the Secretary of State's office, and they're like, here's the paperwork that we already looked at and put together. Could you just look it over? And the GBI was like, sure. So they took it and they're like, oh, we didn't find any fraud. Thanks. And they passed it back. And the Secretary of State's like, oh, see, we told you there was no fraud. I mean, that's not independent. That's just like a second set of eyes. And it's not. So I don't like the process. I think it's shown a lot of flaws and a lot of holes in the process. But at the same time, I know people, because I'm one of them, who have contacted the Secretary of State's office with concrete evidence to show, like, I had everything, could put a little bow on it and say, here you go for prosecution for them to pursue. And they never did. And this was not this year. This was before this was a cool thing to do. So I know that they have no desire to do it, that it's not politically expedient to do it, no matter what's going on and who's in office. And so for me, it was more about this all highlighted some serious flaws in how we check and double check.
Right. Raffensperger, a brief mention, being against reforming absentee ballots before he was for it. Secretary Raffensperger backs reform of absentee voting, elimination of no excuse absentee ballots.
So we actually had this on the outline before the election, and we ran out of time last week, and I still wanted to mention it because it's something that the legislature is going to take up, and it's going to be pretty contentious. But there's this whole thing about we've had the discussion about whether or not you should have a reason. And when Raffensperger was getting railed and just hammered by the local media, national media, everyone about his position on sending out absentee ballot applications to everybody and just changing the process through that federal settlement agreement in 2020, he, in the middle of it, comes out and says, I want the legislature to do something about it. And I'm backing our county officials because they are overwhelmed. They have too much going on. They have 3 weeks of early in-person voting, election day, and then unfettered, I love this, unfettered, no excuse absentee ballot voting, which strains county resources and budgets. So it's true that this passed in 2005. Like the state Senate, David Schaefer, who's all over this, from the GOP, he's the chair of the GOP here in Georgia now. He's the one that's been shouting on Twitter about absentee ballots. He sponsored he voted in favor of the bill. I don't know if he sponsored it, but to allow absentee ballots with no excuse. It's been the process for a long time. Normally they say that it's 5 to 7% of Georgia voters. And that's usually less than 300,000 across the state. But, obviously when you send applications to everybody and you tell them that it's not safe to go to the polls. So he's like, they're overwhelmed. It's too much. And his quote, my favorite quote, he said, times of turbulence and upheaval like the one we Georgians face require decisive action if the liberties we hold so dear are to be preserved. I am acting today because the people of Georgia, from the earliest settlers to the heroes like Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Congressman John Lewis, have fought too long and too hard for their right to vote to have it curtailed. Georgia has faced challenges before and overcome them, and we can do so again through the grit and ingenuity that has made America a shining example for democracies around the world. Okay, first of all, asshole, we're a constitutional republic. Second of all, you mailed every voter in the state an absentee ballot application, and then, which, if you feel like that's the right thing to do, then do it. But don't come here afterwards and be like, it's so hard on our poor poll workers are stressed. You guys got to do something. He did it.
Yep. And his chief of election, he's a mess. He's a mess. He was not qualified for the job. He bought that position. Paying to put signs out everywhere, and we've discussed it before. He just need not run again in 22. Just arrogant son of probably will, but just go ahead and get out of the way.
I did enjoy when he was I should rephrase. I did not enjoy the fact that our Capitol and some of our elected officials had to leave their offices because of threats of violence on Wednesday. However, the picture of him leaving his office in a hurry, or, they weren't in a hurry. They were escorted out slowly by Georgia State Patrol to their vehicles and everything. But he's just carrying this briefcase that looks like it has probably an iPad in it. And I understand that things are very much cloud-based and digital, and I know that people don't carry around stacks and stacks of papers anymore. However, it is the day after an election. I kind of expect you to have more stuff than your perfectly ironed suit and an empty suitcase if you have to leave quickly. The optics are just stupid. Well,
and it's, more and more stories we hear about him. We hear about what an arrogant bastard he is.
I told you so.
Oh, yeah. Everything down to, I think he wanted a motorcade to go to an inauguration thing. I mean,
for Kemp's inauguration.
Yeah. He's So, speaking of arrogant, Vernon Jones wasted no time capitalizing on the drama. He is the honorary loser of the week.
Mr. I announced I'm officially joining the Republican Party. Well, duh. You said that. Okay, back up. He already announced it before, and the reason we know he already announced it before is because he made his announcement the last time, the week his ruling about his residency dispute when he was getting challenged about whether or not he could actually serve. When that ruling was supposed to come down, he announced he was leaving the Democratic Party and going because he supported Donald Trump and this, that, and the other, and he wanted to deflect from the fact that he was about to be ousted. So,
well, his tweet: moments ago, I announced I'm officially joining the Republican Party. Now more than ever, the Republican Party is in desperate need of leaders who know how to fight. That know how to fight. I'm sorry, I corrected his English automatically. I know how to fight. What? You don't know how to vote?
what is he fighting?
I don't know. But here's the thing. So, in one of the Republican Party pages or government pages here in Paulding County, someone said, Vernon for governor. And,
Ew.
And I said, is the governor allowed to vote present? He'd have to show up. Now look, I've heard things that he's a super nice guy and all this stuff, but facta non verba, deeds, not words. He didn't show up to vote. He had probably one of the worst voting records, and I'm not talking about yay or nay. I was talking about not voting.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard people try to explain it away, saying, well, he really held these values, but he was in a Democratic district, so he just didn't vote on stuff. Well, that's not what you do. You vote with your values.
He also missed 25 votes in a single day while he was present. So, I mean, was he just conflicted on all of those? What the hell?
While he was there. Now, this is not... Now, look, I know he lost his mom, and I'm not being flippant with saying my condolences to him. Honestly, that's a horrible thing to go through with a family member being sick, and he did miss some votes when he had to run to the hospital. But those 25 when he was in the building, there's no excuse for it. None. And if he thinks he's gonna pop up in 2022 and run for governor, I assure you, that's going to come up. And look, I've seen him on the news. I've seen him on Fox News, Fox Business, and he's sitting there with the seal of state of Georgia behind him. He's wearing his house pin. He's got an American flag to his right, the Georgia flag to his left, and his MAGA hat placed on the credenza behind him as he sits at his desk doing these interviews. I mean, he's a polished politician. And he understands imagery. And he understands what he's doing. But Christ almighty, man, no one is looking into this guy's background. He got the moniker Vermin Jones back when he was the CEO of DeKalb County, and everybody around him went to prison. Let's say everybody. A good number of people around him went to prison is what was going on in DeKalb County. And this is who people are championing for becoming governor?
Yep. Because he's saying what they want to hear right now.
Facta non verba. Look at what he's done. What he's done is avoid taking a stand every single time. What he wants to do is get on TV and sound really good. And he does. He's a very polished politician. He's been doing it most of his adult career. He's very accomplished at it. But that doesn't make you a leader. It doesn't make you a damn fighter. Speaking of fighting, let's move on to what everyone stopped talking about the election by lunch on Wednesday. The hell that broke loose in D.C.
Yeah, that was quite the show. Did you watch? Well, you said you were really busy with work. You weren't watching, were you?
I caught
you weren't
some
watching
of it. I caught some of it because where I was working, the guy turned it on. He said, man, you need to look at this.
Okay, but were you watching the speeches before the violence?
No.
Okay, so just to brief, like, I'm not going to dive into it because you could look on, but I just, of course, you know, they only made it to Arizona before there was an objection, and Ted Cruz, they asked if they had a senator, and Ted Cruz stood up and all of this, and it was kind of weird watching it, only because, I mean, I know that House members and senators have objected in the past. We just didn't hear about it because the president didn't say they weren't leaving, and there's all that jazz about it. But so it wasn't like live streamed unless you watch C-SPAN all day long. But watching it was kind of like, wow, this is like history happening right now, even if you thought it was wrong, or it was just bizarre. And then they stood up and gave a standing ovation, and you could just tell Mike Pence was like, oh man, I got to deal with this now. You could just tell.
And look, the objections are fine. This is a constitution.
It's not fine.
If they want to be heard.
Okay. Fair
They
enough.
want to be heard. If they want to be heard, that's fine. But this is a constitutional function that they were performing. This is one of the few constitutional functions they perform up there. This is something that has to happen. So, not the objections, but the vote. It has to happen. They have to ratify the Electoral College. It has to happen. This is called for in the Constitution. It has to happen. And Mike Pence's hands are tied. He cannot just can't just throw it out. You just can't. This is what despots do in third world countries. Just throw out elections. You can't do it. Now, look, do I think the election was 100% legitimate? Of course not. I said it the week after the election, while they were still doing audits and going through it. But it is. Now, this is what we have, and they are bound to have this convening of Congress, and they are bound to vote on it. So, and Pence is bound to preside over it.
Yeah, I thought Trump put him in a pickle by calling on him to do some things that he couldn't do.
Right. And Pence is much more the statesman than Trump. He, for 4 years, has been quiet through the presidential debate. He towed the line. He did everything a vice president is supposed to do in the debate, which is not
He's been fiercely loyal.
Yes, but he never talked about himself or never spoke of himself. Every time a question came up about whatever issue, it was the president, not me. It's the president. And he did exactly what you want a vice president to do. And he's been a good one. He has been out of the way, off the news, until dragged into it this last week. But he had a constitutional duty to preside over the vote, and that's what he did. But apparently, the Constitution doesn't mean anything to the rabble-rousers and the Trumpers who were down at their rally. Why in the hell you have a rally for the president in Washington, D.C. after he's already lost? I don't know.
It was a Stop the Steal rally, Dave.
You can't get back in the horse. It's done. I mean, it's done. And look, you can't overturn this. And obviously, at this point, you can't anyway. Trump has already announced that that this will be a peaceful transition, which is, mighty nice of him, knowing that was going to happen anyway. Like you have no power over this. So that's where we get the storming of the Capitol.
Boy, what a sight that was. Yeah.
Now look, and I know, and anybody who's been around me or listened to this show knows I'm a bit of an a-hole. So I was laughing. And obviously not laughing at the loss of life, but the poor tactics used by the Capitol Police, very poor tactics when they got themselves cut off, isolated, and surrounded, which is stupid. Like, I don't know what training they have, but it should be more than, hey, no flash photography or something like that. They should have some sort of riot control training. They were outnumbered, outmatched. And then we get what calls himself the QAnon shaman, dressed in buffalo horns. Someone said it's a Viking outfit. It looked a lot like a Sioux chief outfit to me. Standing at the speaker's podium. You've got somebody walking out with the podium for the Speaker of the House. And they wrecked some stuff. I mean, they overturned some tables. I mean, honestly, there was a lot less damage done to the Capitol than was done to the American cities following this entire year with the defund the police thing and burning of businesses and laying a police department under siege. So there was a lot less damage done. I was waiting for him to set the damn thing on fire. So I'm really kind of taken aback by all the people who are grasping their pearls going, well, I never. Really? You're surprised by this? Or we're better than this? Where have you been? No, we're not.
Well, we were talking about it before the show. You know, the media was like, how could this happen? How could so many... I'm talking about before the violence, so I just want to clarify. But, you know, they're like, this is just unseen. We've never seen anything like this before. It's unconscionable that people would breach barriers and crowds would just flood the Capitol. It's really not, because it happened in 2018 when they were voting on Kavanaugh. It happened like the 3 weeks leading up to him, to hit the vote on him. They had like 200 people arrested 2 different days. And they weren't just on the steps. They were in the building. They were in the Senate buildings. They were they were in atriums and rotundas and all that inside the same buildings. Now, granted, you know, it wasn't when all of the members were in one room with the vice president doing what, you know, they were doing in this case, but it has happened before.
Look,
and I feel like it's going to happen again.
Yeah, we had members, one beat another with a cane. We had a sitting vice president get into a duel and kill a man, another public official. This is not unprecedented. This is how we were damn founded. Tar and feathering taxmen. This is not new in this country. It absolutely is not new. These mostly peaceful protests that we've been watching for the last year, this is not new. But because it happens in Washington, it's all of a sudden awful, and now all the Democrats love police and want more police presence. I thought they wanted to defund them yesterday. Well, 2 weeks ago. Now they want prosecutions. Now they don't care about bail reform. Lock them up. Now they don't care about justice reform. Throw away the key.
It makes me hate everyone.
Yeah. Well, I already did. But
yeah,
you're throwing words like sedition around. Words like coup. And this is coming out of the media. This is coming out of people who are supposed to be impartial. Attempted coup. Really, jackass? You think that's a coup d'etat? Because it's not done.
What did they control? Even temporarily, what did they control other than what was on our televisions?
They controlled our attention, and they held the floor for a little while. But they controlled no piece of government, nor did they attempt to control any piece of government. Their intention was to disrupt, and they did. Now, of course, these are not overly cerebral individuals, because they are live streaming themselves doing this crap. I mean, it's going to be very easy just to pick these people up. One jackass had his work badge still on.
Wow.
Like the company's already had to mention the fact that we support anybody's right to demonstrate. We don't support blah, 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 blah. So the company's had to respond because the jackass is wearing his work badge. I'm going to give anybody a little advice if you're going to break the law. Take your name tag off.
Or just...
Don't.
Sure, that's a good advice.
Look, I don't mind the what. I mind the why. They stormed
absolutely.
the halls of Congress because they were performing a constitutional duty. You want to storm the halls of Congress? Do it when they raise taxes. Do it when they take away our freedoms. Where the hell was this when they passed the Brady bill? Where the hell was this when they did the assault weapons ban? Where was this when they raised taxes? That nobody cares about. But this cult of personality and this violence that's been whipped up, and I honestly think by propaganda. This Q crap, this is propaganda. It speaks to their basic instincts and it feeds their ego with you're important. You know things that other people don't. You're being wronged. And all those things that are key components of propaganda are all present in what's going on. And this doesn't lay at the feet of the president. Although he hasn't helped anything because he created this cult of personality. Again, facta non verba is they're being they fell in love with his personality and not his policies. And I actually like a lot of his policies, not his personality. But they get wrapped up in this personality that's Trump, this guy that will say just outlandish shit they love. And they don't know why they love him. They just love Trump. They're in love with this man instead of his policies. So when this man loses, justly or unjustly, they're doing a temper tantrum. But if you want to go storm a government building, why not start with the damn IRS? Storm that building and burn everything out. Go find the auditors and tar and feather them and run them out of town on a rail. If you're really upset with what's going on in this country, it doesn't start with stopping a constitutionally mandated function. It starts with the stealing that the government does from the productivity of its people. Sedition. And Joe Biden's a jack too for capitalizing on it. And he gets to come off sounding presidential. Of course, the press helps him from a bunker somewhere in Delaware. He's gonna be in deep doo-doo when he actually has to walk into the White House and do things and not hide in the basement somewhere. Sorry, Jessica.
No, I mean, I'm just listening. I don't disagree. And
speaking of jackasses, the people are wanting to invoke the 25th Amendment and remove the president, including Lucy McBath.
That's my issue, is that nothing was actually accomplished. Maybe we can joke, we can be angry, we can be upset, you could, whatever emotion you want to have, like, all it's done is divide people more. And you've got people who are like you said, calling for the 25th Amendment, and then you have another group who's already saying, okay, let's announce for 2024.
Man, first of all, I don't like Lucy McBath. I think Karen Handel did the state of Georgia a huge disservice by running. Had she not, old nutcase could have stayed over there and run against her and maybe had a chance. Marjorie Greene, who jumped out of McBath's district into mine because there was an open seat and it was an easier path and she wouldn't actually have to fight because there wouldn't be a Democratic opposition. Well, actually, there wasn't any. The Democrat pulled out of the race and ran away because I assume he got stuck with his fingers in the cookie jar, or he and his wife are getting divorced. I assume he got caught.
But she didn't know that at the time.
No, she didn't know that at the time, but she knew that no Democrat in this district has a chance. And she knew that. She knew all she had to do was get past the primary. And against McBath, she would actually have to run a campaign instead of just going on Facebook and Twitter and pulling stupid stunts. AOC of the right. Jesus Christ, we're in trouble. But the problem with invoking the 25th is it's an abuse of the 25th Amendment, which is designed for incapacitation of the president. This is it was invoked when Reagan went in for surgery because he was out for a period of time for a few hours. HW 41 was acting president for a few hours, but that's what it's designed for. Is the president has a stroke, something like that, where the president's incapacitated. Using it because you don't like what he says on Twitter is stupid, and it lays a groundwork that is very problematic for the future. This is a seal we don't want broken. And he's got less than 2 weeks. Ride it out. It'll be fine. He's not going to resign. He's also, news came out on Friday, not going to attend the inauguration, which is absolutely classless. It's just what you do. You stand at the door of the White House. You welcome the incoming president. You shake his hand. You shake the incoming first lady's hand. You guys walk away. You walk to the office. You discuss some things, and then you go to the inauguration. The outgoing gets on what used to be Marine One, flies away, and then goes where he's going to go on what used to be Air Force One. And then the new president goes to inaugural balls. When he shows up, all his stuff is in the residence, and he's the president. So that's a classless move. It's just classless. Jessica, get your closing thought as we're.
Don't tell me what to do.
Don't tell me what to do.
I'm not the boss of me. I'd like to move on to my closing thought. It's just a word of the week. I love this word, and I'll give credit where credit's due. It's told to us by the one, the only Matt Lowe, but it's Kakistocracy, and it's a system of government that is run by the worst, least qualified, and/or the most unscrupulous citizens. The word was coined as early as the 17th century. So, literally, the word is derived from two Greek words combined with worst rule, and so it has a literal meaning of government by the worst people. And so basically it's a synonym for government generally. But I love the word. I love it. And we are in a kakistocracy. We always are. All local governments are just about. It's a great word.
And very true. Very, very true. We said it in 2016. Is this a competition to find the two worst people on earth when it was Trump and Clinton? And we continued on with Biden and Trump, the two least qualified worst people that could possibly occupy the residence at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Because good people don't want to do it. No, I mean, you find a good person, you're like, man, you'd be really, really good in government. Like, oh, no, I wouldn't do that to my family. Because they're good people. Because they don't want to expose their family, their spouse, their kids to what happens in a large political campaign. They don't want to do that to their friends. So, yeah, I think that's very apropos. My only closing thought is I'm not going to say if you like what you heard, because it's been a very frustrating week. But if you find what we have to say informative, if you agree with us, if you disagree with us, please interact with us on social media. Like and share the podcast. Let others join in the frustration, because you shouldn't suffer alone. So, for Jessica Szilagyi, for Eric Cumby, our editor, I'm Dave Roberts. Let's make this week better.